at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to, I don't know what this is. This is just an extra show, I guess. And I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Second Amendment Foundation. There we go. So I don't know how many people out there were just listening to the live conversation over at the Second Amendment Foundation. Just ended a minute ago. I didn't really want to go live with it because I wasn't sure what the premise. I missed the first couple minutes. I guess I don't know. I didn't get the introduction or whatever. So I figured I'd go live. We don't have the community forum anymore to get together and chat about stuff like this immediately after it happened. So while there were people in there chatting, I'm not familiar with the Zoom platform. I don't know what to call that, the Zoom tool. So unlike this thing, StreamYard, that I'm using, which gives me a thing I can link out here. I can drop this link into the chat here. This is ported over. It's streaming through YouTube. So when I send that link out, it's a link to this room. No one needs an account or any kind of setup. They can just jump in as the host, I guess, the person running the show. I'm going to see them down here, and I can choose to boot them out of there or pull them into the show. So there's sort of a staging area, a green room. This is called El Pato, or in Canadian, the duck. And some people call it StreamYard.com. This is some free service that's free from Canada. The Second Amendment Foundation just did theirs on one called Zoom, which I'm not familiar with, but I think they're going to send this Zoom event over to Facebook, they said, which does me no good. I don't use Facebook. And potentially to YouTube, which means they probably wouldn't have minded if I would have streamed it live. I didn't really ask, and I didn't do it. We were live there for a while with the Patreons. Not live, but I was streaming it to people on Patreon so that they could experience what it was all about. I guess you'll be able to experience it when I guess it renders. I don't know how it works on Zoom. It wasn't streamed out to YouTube or anything. So I've joined Zoom, but I haven't hosted a room or anything to see how the process technically works. But whenever they do whatever they do and it gets out onto the internet, you'll be able to check out. Yeah, Pants is saying it's basically Skype. Yeah, from what I understand it is, but like I say, it wasn't streaming out to anywhere. It was just like having this room open for ourselves, but somehow also recording it. So I guess people do that. You can, if you pay for El Pato, over here, I could have chosen, I don't know how to make it show it now. You can make it record to the computer. So I guess that's the equivalent over on Zoom. Either way, who cares? They're using Zoom. They're going to post it on Facebook, they said, and then eventually on YouTube. So you'll be able to check out what happened. So it was basically a seminar, I guess, a briefing on methods of communication, I guess, for getting the Second Amendment message out there. So it was, I didn't see any names I recognized, but it's hard to know if people are going to use real names or handles or what they're going to use. Who's this? RTT. Do I know you? You got your mute on, so we'll see if.
Yeah.
So I just threw the link out there. I guess you jumped in.
Yeah.
Right on. Or I also posted it on Patreon, so I'm not sure if you're a Patreon or if you're just jumping in from the YouTube side.
I got it on the YouTube side.
Right on. So anyway, just did you join the Second Amendment Foundation's seminar?
No, I missed it. I had just gotten home and it was on while I wasn't even available to hear it.
Right on. Yeah, it lasted about an hour, and it was basically like being in one of these rooms that wasn't streaming live. So they presented everything. They had the screen, but there was a chat. You could chat with other people in there, but it wasn't like a roundtable discussion. There wasn't a bunch of people in the room chatting with each other, having conversation, or even bouncing back and forth. So it seemed like it was run by one of them, and then as a couple of them were talking, they took the whole screen. So as far as the tech side of it, it worked, and I don't know how many people showed up. It's not like, well, even I guess YouTube will kind of show you how many people are watching currently. On streamer here, it'll tell me over here that 3 people are watching currently.
Right.
I don't know if it'll tell you on Zoom how many people. It must know how many people are connected to watch, even though it's not streaming, but we didn't get any kind of display like that. The only way we knew who was in the room was by who was chatting in there. And there wasn't a heck of a lot of chatting till close to the end. And I suspect, I'm just guessing, it's because the people that were there aren't familiar with this stuff. So they didn't probably even realize you could use the side chat, or that it was appropriate, or what the, I don't, people are just figuring out what the protocol, I guess, is going to be with the, how they're going to run that thing. But anyway,
on that Zoom, you mean?
Well, on the Zoom is the platform, but then just Second Amendment Foundation hosting it was new also. As far as I know, this was the first time they did it. So anyway, the reason I went live here was so that I could open this room and I sent the link out to our Patreon so that they could watch over my shoulder, basically, to see what it was like. It didn't record until I went live. Whenever I pushed the button here and went live on YouTube. So before that, it didn't record. It was just an open room. And then whenever we went live, it starts recording and streaming it out to YouTube. So I'll probably do that again tomorrow, and then without getting their permission, I won't stream the actual event live over to YouTube. But it does sound like it's not going to be like, I don't know, off-air strategies or
Right.
no only kind of stuff that wouldn't be streamed. But I just don't want to assume anything. But anyway, there will be 2 more. So there was one today, and they're not the same time every day. I don't have that. I have the email in front of me. Actually, maybe I do. No, I don't. I have an email in front of me, but it doesn't have all the dates. There'll be one tomorrow, though, and there'll be one the day after. You can go to the Second Amendment. Where did I find out about this? I found out about this in an email from Arizona Citizens Defense League, I think.
I'll have to check my email then, because I get from them too.
Okay, I just don't want to go through all my emails on the screen here, but in the description of this video, I'll put links to where you can, what do they call it, register or whatever. Get the link, you'll register, I guess, and then you just reply to this email, and then they send you a link to either tomorrow's show or Thursdays, and then you can observe, I guess is the way to say it. You don't have to participate much at all, really. You can just watch it. You do have to download Zoom, which I didn't like. So we're using this thing called El Pato, or in Canadian, the duck. And StreamYard, you don't have to register. I had to register, I guess, technically to host the room. But as a participant, like when RTT jumped in, you don't have any software. You're not a member of nothing. You just click that link and jumped in. The limit is that it only holds 6 people in the room, but it can be as many people as want to watch it as they're connected to YouTube. So whatever, that's just 2 different ways of doing it. They're doing it on Zoom. So you have to basically, I'll include a link or something in the description. Click on that link, get the email, reply to the email. That's the way that they're doing it. And when you get the email, it's going to say, click here to join the room. And that's going to instigate the Zoom software link. And that's going to figure out you don't have the software and prompt you to download it, which is a pain in the butt. It's not a big pain in the butt, but it is a complication. It's a thing. It's a step you have to take, and a technical issue, because your computer could be old or full or just not interested in accepting new software. And that can be an issue. Hopefully it's not a big issue for people. And if it is, something you need to overcome at some point anyway. So I guess this is a good opportunity. But unlike the Duck, you have to download something in order to use it. So when you go to join the room, you'll click on the link. It'll open the software, which then opens another window on your screen, which is the room. And I don't know, I'm new to it, so I'm not a big fan of it so far. I've used quite a few of these software things, but I don't know. It seemed capable, but kind of clunky. Like they put it together and then stopped. Sort of like the Duck. The Duck works, but it's not fancy. They're not doing anything here.
I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy when StreamYard came out after YouTube changed the way they do their live streams, and yeah, because I use this for my live streams.
Yeah, it's only real the biggest disadvantage is that it's not cheap. It's $25 a month if you want to pay for it. And they only have one level. You either pay for it or you don't. The free is fine. I definitely use it free. But the $25 is unreasonable. I don't know who's making enough money to make $25 a month just for their streaming stuff. That gives you a little bit more capability. You can stream it to more than one platform like YouTube and useless Facebook and those other platforms, I guess. But if you're not interested in that, you don't need to pay for it. You can change branding once you pay for it. You don't have to. We're talking about StreamYard. But the $25, and then the biggest limitation is the 6 people. And I think the Zoom doesn't have that limitation, but I don't know because I've only used it today and they didn't even try to push that limitation. They used one person at a time. And again, I don't even know how many people might have even been in that room. It had an ability to comment to just the panelists and then to comment to the panelists and the audience. So I was sitting there with some excellent comments, really, really good, like on point, really good motivational, inspirational comments. But then I figured out I was only talking to the panel. And then I flipped it over to both. So I don't know how many other people by default are only talking to the panelists. If you didn't know that there's a little drop down right there, which isn't really all that obvious. I didn't notice it until I kind of started paying attention to what the other people were typing, and the little prompt that it was showing was different. And I went, oh, wait a minute. There's, you can just select who you're going to chat to. So that's interesting, but it's annoying. It's one of those things. Sometimes features are nice, but sometimes they just get in the way. And that's one of the ones that, I don't know. It's an indication that Zoom is definitely different. So we'll see. But tomorrow they'll have another one. Thursday they'll have a third one. And hopefully this is something that if it catches on, maybe they'll do it once a month, maybe on a certain date so that everybody can plan for it. And that would be awesome because obviously the Second Amendment Foundation, I've been doing the Gun Rights Policy Conference for 35, 36 years now. Definitely, what's the word? One of the people, one of the organizations, one of the groups that's been keeping people, all the other organizations together, while not directly tying them together or in a formality. They've done a pretty decent job over the last 3 decades to keep the organizations aware of what each other are doing, all the way down to the grassroots, getting everybody together, spending a bunch of money to make it a big affair and give people sort of a thing to look forward to each year that are in this realm. So they're definitely doing it. They're cutting some ground. They mentioned some stuff today on how to talk to media, I guess, newspapers, television, I guess, online. I'm not going to critique every piece of it because it's just their flavor, their point of view on how to get information across, and they're certainly successful. But they also talked about 2A gaming, which I don't know if too many people have heard of that one. That was something that was, as far as I know, brought up for the first time at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix last year in 2019. And it's Andrew Gottlieb, Alan Gottlieb's son, Andrew, is the one that introduced it, and he introduced it again today. And honestly, I expected him to talk more about it. He just briefly talked about it. We'll be able to listen to the playback for the specifics. I was in the middle of trying to set up everything too while he was talking, but I kind of expected him to talk longer. So I Can't remember exactly everything he talked about, but the concept of getting gamers together who are pro 2A is interesting for sure. And I guess they're going to be, going forward with that. They had logos and hats and stuff, so they must be working towards that. Has anybody heard of that 2A gaming concept?
I don't know that I've heard it called 2A gaming, but there are a lot of gun channels that seem to have just as big of a following on their gaming channels as they do their gun channels. And this is all the way from like Matt Best to Matt Carricker, from Demolition Ranch. I mean, these guys with these giant followings are big gamers too. And they get a lot of from what I've heard them say before is that they get a chance to really talk guns with these gaming people in a different way than they get to connect with their regular YouTube following. So it's not, I don't think, a foreign concept. I just never heard it. It's called 2A gaming.
Yeah, exactly. And while those people are, like you say, probably super successful because they understand, they got their finger on the pulse. They know what the kids like, or they're creating what the kids like, or whatever. They're doing it in front of kids, so kids are figuring out what they like. But the people, like you mentioned, have no interest in 2A at all whatsoever. Like they literally do nothing for 2A, unless it ever. Like it doesn't, even if it profits them, or I've never seen them do anything 2A. So the idea that something like Second Amendment Foundation is going to step into that realm is interesting, because as varied as people's interests are in anything, right? Like guns is one of those things, right? So people are going to be interested in shooting different ways. They're going to be interested in 2A and either awareness or defending 2A protected rights in their own way, to their own whatever interests or point of view or angle or whatever. So getting different people in there during the game, I don't know what to call that, like time spent. I mean, I can't even imagine. I don't play games, so I can't even imagine how much time people are spending playing games. But instead of just being like, hey, that's a Beretta, blah, 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 or this thing didn't shoot like a Beretta, that's one way to talk about guns and games, or to maybe have conversations, I don't know, about what guns should be in games or could have been or were in game. Like there's so many different ways to talk about guns and games. And there's so much time spent. I just think it's got to be a great idea to have the 2A aspect thrown in there, and at least have it in there with somebody, or from a direction, or from a source that knows 2A, that actually is aware of 2A and is going to be able to drop down facts instead of platitudes or assumptions or recollections, or regurgitating something they think is the right thing, but is really just some old wise tale or some sort of generic blah, 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 which most people who are barely into 2A, it's the whole, I'm going to rack my shotgun and that's going to keep me safe. Like that kind of dumb stuff.
Right.
When you're first new to guns sounds great. You're like, oh yeah, okay. It makes sense. Like you start hearing some of that stuff the first time. It's not till you're around guns for a while that you start thinking, that is kind of dumb. Like, do I really want to have a giant shotgun laying around empty? Is that, it sounds great, but on the surface, but once you get into it, you start to figure it out. I think 2A is the same way. Plenty of people are like, oh yeah, the Second Amendment. Now I get it. These are guns and the Second Amendment. And then you tune it out and you go live your life or whatever. But at some point when you want to really eat, when you want to really feed on that, once you really want to get into it and sink your teeth into it, you want more than just somebody who's like vaguely aware that we have an amendment that protects guns, when really what we have is an amendment that protects our rights to own property, and guns are property. So that once you start to get into it, it's nice to have somebody like Second Amendment, where if you're, I don't know what the hell they're playing, Tetris or whatever they're doing, and they're talking to each other, then they've got somebody who knows, who's competent. It's like, oh yeah, you want to get into guns, then, you want to talk to your politicians, right? You want to let politicians know that gun issues are important, because that's probably more important than letting your, I don't know, Amazon know that you like to buy gun stuff. Like there's just ways to be more efficient than.
So did I just hear you say that you're going to come up with 2A Tetris?
2A Tetris would be kind of cool, actually. I just got done watching maybe an hour-long thing about the history of Tetris, which is kind of neat. I've been watching a lot of stuff on the history of Silicon Valley, the history of sort of the evolution of electronics from fuse, like what's the word? Those glass tubes. I can think of tubes to transistors, and then microprocessors and all that kind of stuff. Semiconductors. Watching this evolution and development, all that stuff is just really neat because there's lots of neat YouTube documentaries, and then every once in a while you find something on YouTube that's like a professional documentary. But yeah, the hell, drew a blank. I'm trying to read too much stuff at the same time. But learning the history. What the hell was I talking about? Learning the history of what'd you say I was going to develop?
You had mentioned them playing Tetris, and I said, "Are you going to come up with 2A Tetris?"
Yeah, thanks. So I was just watching the history of the history of Tetris, and I was just getting into it because it's a video game, and it's been interesting listening to the people that develop video games chat about what it was like back in the Wild West of developing software and stuff. But coming from Russia, it was a whole nother angle. How they already had like old computers compressed compared to the rest of the world, and just like anybody who's using a computer, if you've got a little bit of extra time and space on the computer, you figure out how to do something entertaining. And the development of Tetris, where it came from, those puzzles where, what are they? They're like made out of plastic, and they'll be like it's basically just a little kid's puzzle, like a real simple puzzle where you kind of slide the things around, and there's like one spot left open, and that allows you to kind of shift the puzzle pieces around inside of a thing. It was really that game that he invented, and he was like, well, it was super boring. Like I just figured it out. So he just sort of developed that game on his real simple computer into, well, I'm going to take the parameters from a box into a channel, and I'll drop the pieces. And then that got boring because it filled up. So he decided to figure out to make the lines disappear. And then it became super addictive. And then at that point, it's neat because it turns into sort of an underground game in the computer labs in the Soviet Union at a time when I haven't even started looking into how the Soviet Union dealt with figuring they probably stole most of their computer shit, let's assume, right? So, however they decided to get into computers, they had to go from zero to ICBMs, right, to keep up with us. So I can't even imagine what it would have been like for a computer developer to try to hide a game in Russia. But that's what he did, and it got all around. And then eventually it got ported into a computer that the rest of the world could figure out. And then it got out to the rest of the world. And then it was all about how do you license this thing? It turned, as soon as they figured out Russia owns it, USSR owned it, how do you even deal with them? And that was at a time when they were kind of ending the whole communist thing. And it was possible to deal with them. And then it was sort of a big, I don't know what to call that, like a business adventure on who got sued and who had licensing and what departments, and the communist was able to do it. So anyway, kind of an interesting thing if you're into all that stuff. It was like an hour long, seemed like a pretty well-made documentary, but it's on YouTube, so you can watch it for nothing. Anyway, so yeah, it would be neat to do Tetris. You could have like some different types of guns, right? Just with turn the shapes into guns. They almost kind of look like guns and grenades, I guess.
Bullets, guns, grenades, magazines. There could be everything.
Yeah, so you could make a pretty decent one. It would have to look like kind of 8-bit, I guess, to look like blocky, but yeah, it would be kind of neat.
I found out something new. I mean, I didn't even know Tetris. I didn't know Tetris was developed in Russia.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew it was Russian themed, but I didn't really know it was from a communist Russian guy either. I mean, I kind of figured it out at some point, but never looked into the history of it until just recently. I remember I watched a whole bunch of interviews with Steve Wozniak, the Apple guy who invented the Apple computer, and a whole bunch of other things. And he talks about whenever the Nintendo Game Boy came out, right? It was packaged with Tetris, which is probably one of the things that really kicked it off with regular people because they could buy that thing. I don't know how old you are if you remember. And then Game Boy came out, that was pretty universal. Like with Tetris, that was almost like crossword puzzles. Like a lot of people who would have never bought Mario Brothers or Donkey Kongs or anything like that. Tetris was like a crossword puzzle or like a sophisticated game you could play on the bus or something that nobody was going to give a shit about. So they sold a lot of those Game Boys, and Steve Wozniak had them. I guess he really liked that Tetris. It clicked for him. So he had a bunch of those Game Boys, and then he gave them to people as gifts for a while. And he ended up giving one to, I don't know what it is, some Russian president at the time, Gorbachev or one of them. And then, anyway, so yeah, Tetris was sort of known to be a Russian thing or whatever, but I had no idea it was actually literally from USSR.
Yeah, Game Boy came out when I think it was right as I was getting out of like the video game stage. I'm 42 years old, so I mean, I very vividly remember Game Boy coming out, and I vividly remember Tetris, but I just didn't understand. I didn't know that it was a Russian game though.
Yeah, same with me. I was a young kid, so I was done with games. I remember Tetris, or I remember the Game Boy, because I was like, dang it, that would have been nice. Like that was right after I quit being interested in anything like that too. Like I was done with kid stuff, and that was all considered toys and stuff back then. So I remember seeing the Game Boys and being like, dang, that thing is pretty cool. I eventually got one, but it was, later once they were not cool anymore and they were cheap because of the Tetris. I was like, dang, I really like Tetris, and that's a super cool way to play Tetris. Plus, you could take the Tetris out and put a different game in there.
I remember, so my mom, I know we're probably getting a little off subject here, but my mom she enjoyed video games more than I ever did, actually. And I would come home from school, and my mom was retired, and she would be playing a game called Dr. Mario, which was a Mario Brothers version of Tetris.
Oh, really? So I would have thought it was some sort of go-kart game or running around game.
Nope, it was called Dr. Mario, and what fell from the top was basically little, what you would think of like a capsule, like a pill capsule that was two-sided, and they were just different colors, and you had to line them up, and it was just like Tetris.
Patriotic Spartan is saying that's funny. I'm part of the 2A gamer community. My friend just got started into modern firearms because of gaming. Yeah, we hear that stuff all the time. I mean, for a long time. Although, I mean, video games have been a thing. I don't know when they started with their online sort of features or whatever to make them such a big thing. That evolved. That wasn't available for a while, and then it took it a while before that became such a thing. But now I would say I don't know, I'm guessing that's bigger than Facebook as far as people getting together and chatting or whatever. So I can't even imagine. There's got to be, there's at least Discord and Twitch, but I could probably think about it and come up with a couple even more platforms besides those two that people use that are fairly major still. And that's just the ones that don't already have some kind of built-in features. I'm sure some of those things have built-in ways to communicate and chat. So yeah, I don't even know. I think being a 2A gamer is like saying being on a 2A person online almost, right? I mean, like there's such variety and nuance and versions and options that, it's just cool to see that it's out there in that realm as opposed to just ignoring it or having a vacuum, I guess would be the opposite. What it's been, just been the Wild West. Anybody could talk about anything out there. There was no presence. So it's going to be interesting to see. They've had all kinds of projects over the years. Second Amendment Foundation has had all kinds of projects over the years. In fact, that's one of the things that I guess it's one of the ways you could describe the Second Amendment Foundation as an evolving group of projects and like an enabler, I guess is the word, like an incubator. So I think they'll start organizations, they'll help organizations, and from that role, again, doing this since 1971, when they started when Alan Gottlieb started the Citizens Committee the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, CCKRB. that turned into Second Amendment Foundation in like 75. So they've been doing this stuff for a while. They've got experience with, I don't know what to call it, like, the way people transition into awareness, and then that's got to be a certain percentage of gun owners. And then of the people that become aware, then only a certain amount of those are going to become active. And then a certain amount of those are going to be, the next level and the next level. So they're familiar with those transition steps, or how to find and foster and like facilitate, I guess, these areas, and not just the same thing over and over. Like, hey, let's do this for this, and then let's do it for this color, and then let's do it for this age, and then they do that. They hit general stuff from different angles, subsets of the population, but they also hit different things. They've gone after training. They've gone after international, like this. They've gone after the safer homes and suicide stuff. But then they've gone and helped out the doctors, right? The Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Other projects that evolved from campaigns or from like individual situations that erupted and needed to, like a fire needed to be put out, and then that created an organization. So they've created organizations, they've fostered, they've, like I say, created when they need to, or amplified existing stuff. So they've done this so many different times in so many different ways that I'm confident that if anybody's going to be able to do it, that they can. But at the same time, to be realistic, they're not always successful. Nothing's always successful. They've got plenty of things that either they did it really weird, or the wrong time. I can remember things that they've done with timing and stuff. And then they're willing, I think, it seems like from the perspective of after the fact, or whatever it's called, like 2020 hindsight, it seems like they're willing to step out of the way when they try something and somebody else comes along and does it better, or had done it differently or something, and that's catching on. They'll step out of the way. They don't beat dead horses. So I'm just trying to be realistic that it's not like they have 100% success rate. But then the other thing is, I don't know how many things Andrew's done. So I don't know if this is his first thing, or just his first thing that he's the head of it or the main face on it. But again, that's not a sure win. It's not a sure failure either. I'm just pointing it out to be realistic that it's Andrew's project, and I don't know how many projects he's personally done. That's just not, at least they don't put some sort of like, when you look at a project, it doesn't say this is being run by these people, or this is going to be run by this person. Until this particular project, it's really never been about the individuals running them. So anyway, so that'll be interesting. Obviously, Alan Gottlieb's not the guy to do 2A gaming, so it's obviously the appropriate choice. But I'm curious to see how he does it. He's either going to do it a different way, or he's going to do it the same way that the Second Amendment Foundation has done things. But again, he's got lots and lots of experience. He's got lots of people to get counsel from and guidance from. So I'm looking forward to what he can do. Fortunately, I'm going to be watching it from afar because I'm not about to start playing video games.
What did you say it was like an hour long? Was that from 3 to 4 today or something?
It was from 3 to 4 my time. So it ended at 5. No, it was from 4 to 5 Pacific time. So today it was 7 p.m. Eastern.
I'm in Tucson.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, it was from 4 to 5 our time. So I started this when it ended. I went live with this when it ended. I started this up a little before.
Okay.
So then tomorrow, it's not the same time. Otherwise, I'd say it's the same time every day. I just have to go look at my emails or whatever. But it's different times each day. And I don't know why they did it that way. And the thing is, they're very email heavy. So I get a lot of emails in the first place. But whenever I click the link to register, it sent me like 2 emails, and then I'm still like this whole time I've been clicking emails because I've got so many responses. So then I decided, well, it didn't tell me not to register for both days, or for more than one day. So I registered for the next day, and then boom, another slew of emails. So that's what I'm weeding through here. And I believe that I'm going to register for the 3rd day also, because I wasn't sure if I was like taking a spot from somebody. because I'd never done this Zoom shit before, Zoom things before. So register now. Okay, I got the times. Today was Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow is 7 p.m. Central. So that's an hour later. That'll be at 5 p.m. for us tomorrow.
Yes.
And then Thursday is 7 p.m. Pacific. Sneeze there. So 7 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. And I suspect it's going to be sort of the same, but I'm going to go to all three of them anyway. So it turns out that I think with Zoom, well, I know it wasn't being streamed. It wasn't being sent out live concurrently, right? So it was just them in a room like this is, except instead of streaming to YouTube like we're doing right now and have 11 people watching, they had people that go to Zoom are in a little Zoom audience. That's the difference between Zoom and El Pato, is the Pato connects to YouTube, and that's your audience. Zoom has its own audience, I guess. So we joined as audience, and we were just watching, but there's no indication of how many other people are watching or whatever. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. Is Second Amendment Foundation hosted, what do they call it? A special invitation to series of free grassroots training sessions by the Second Amendment and CCRKBA. Holy crap, I say it wrong. Whatever. But Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. He's their Director of External Affairs. He worked for the NRA for 29 years as the NRA's Managing Director of Grassroots Programs and Campaign Field Operations. The Gun Rights Activism Summits, which is what they're calling it, will be hosted on Zoom, which is really shitty, but whatever. The first summit is titled Grassroots Activism in the COVID Environment, and will discuss steps you can take now to enhance your defense of Second Amendment in our current times. Now that I read that, it wasn't really that, but whatever. It was general, like, here's what you can do if you've never done anything before. So whatever, it's an attempt to chat about stuff, and then at the last couple of minutes of it, they talked about a Second Amendment Foundation project called 2A Gaming that they've been talking about since Gun Rights Policy Conference. Let's see. I think there must have been a website for it, so I'm going to see if I can just find it. You would think. Looks like USCCA is trying to do something about it. Or is it a message about the Second Amendment Foundation? So this is written by Beth Alcazar, who is one of their writers. Player 2, okay, she is talking about Alan Gottlieb and his project. I guess that was something he did, talking about communicating with anti-Second Amendment. Okay, so it'll officially launch on December 2019. So is it going to have a website or something? I guess not. Oh, here it is. FBGG. Ugh, it's on Facebook. So this is the logo for it, and it's on Facebook, so I'm not going to learn more about it. You can find the latest stream at blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I guess it's just on Facebook. Oh, it's on Facebook Gaming. I don't know shit about this. So anyway, I guess he talked about that. I was going to try to find their website, but for some reason they're only on Facebook, so I'm going to quit looking for it. But he talked about the project for Second Amendment Foundation called 2A Gaming, where I guess they're going to offer useful Second Amendment advocacy in the video game arena or areas. Let's see. So Enrique is saying he registered for the Thursday one, right on. So like I say, when you're in there, there's going to be, it's like being in a YouTube chat, except private, right? It's not broadcasting. It's basically like being in this StreamYard type of environment. It's just like being in here, except that there's nobody down here. There's nobody actually in the room. You're just seeing it. It's like watching a video on a premiere on YouTube. That's what it's like. So it's just like you have this little private premiere that's happening on YouTube. So anyway, when you go to chat, you'll have a chat room. There's a little thingy that you have to flip it, drop down and flip it to audience and participants, because you can't see the participants, and unless you flip it, you're only chatting to the participants. So it's kind of dumb. I guess I could have left this like this and we could see the chat. All right, well, with that, I didn't need to go live. I'm probably corking people. I just I had opened the room while the actual live thing was happening. And I figured since I had the room opened over here, I wouldn't leave everybody hanging, and I would go live. As I was chatting, I dropped a link, and RTT jumped in. You said you're in Tucson, you do chats and stuff, so you want to promote your stuff?
Oh, I just I got my channel, RTT Guns and Gear. Been around for a long time. I do chats like once a month. Yeah, check me out. I post usually twice a week.
Right on. I can't drop a link from here, but if I go to, here maybe, and then here.
Mostly some reviews, some training videos. I do a bunch of stuff down on the border, so I also record some of that.
I get to your channel nowadays. That's weird. It won't let me go to your channel. So if you want to drop your link on the internal one here, and I'll drop your link out there.
It won't let you go to it, huh?
No, back in the day, you could click on this and then go to channel. I want to hide it, and I don't want to remove it. So I don't know how you're supposed to go to somebody's channel anymore. I'm the owner of this chat. I mean, it's not like somebody else's chat. It's weird. Like I can't go to.
Let's see if I can do it.
Well, you can't do it on YouTube, but you can do it here in the Duck. So if you go to the Duck and go to the internal.
Okay. I as a guest, I can give it to you.
Yeah.
In the Duck. Okay.
So anyway, the Second Amendment Foundation is doing these seminars. They did one today. They're going to do one tomorrow. They'll do one Thursday. They are to inform and inspire you to do some grassroots stuff during the time of the COVID or whatever we're supposed to be calling it. And if you're interested in that, I got the link from the Arizona Citizens Defense League. I'm trying to find where it might be on here, and I got the link from an email. How do I give people the link? You must pre-register. Here, let me just see if open link in a new tab. So this is what the thing looks like. I'm going to see if this link will drop in here or not. If not, I'll try to put the link into, oh no, it won't, because it's 207. Stupid. So let's see if I can cut anything off of there. Probably not. Not really. So I am a 2AF. I can't click on it. I'm on the wrong platform. Should use in guntube.org, which is a much better Pro 2A video hosting platform that has streaming. But I can't do this, and I really like being able to do this. So I keep using El Pato, even though El Pato is a shitty Canadian-based stinky version of guntube.org, which is way better. I'm a 2AF member. I got an email about it. Okay, so thanks. They're sending it out to Second Amendment Foundation members as well. So anyway, I'll drop a link in the comments of this one, which I guess I can, in the description of this one, I should say. And I guess I could do that right here. Boom. And we're calling it they're calling it Gun Rights Activism Summit. So right away, that won't appeal to a bunch of people, and they'll never click on it. So now it's in the description of this video. So you can sign up for this one, and then sign up for Thursdays if you want. Can I click on this link also? Yeah. So you can sign up for that one as well. And then, oh, wait, something happened. Error occurred. Maybe it doesn't like that link. Am I still alive? I think I'm still alive. Maybe I'm not live anymore. Am I still alive?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, you can get the links from the description of this video eventually, or you got emails coming from Second Amendment Foundation, or maybe your local. Nice strikes out there. Do you know how many people can be in Zoom? I think I remember something saying 100. So maybe 100 people can watch, or maybe more.
My my only experience with Zoom is the other day, over the weekend, I was sitting in my recliner browsing through YouTube on my Roku box and ran across a reunion, a reunion on Zoom of all the Goonies cast members, along with along with the uh, um, along with the director and all that other stuff. So there was quite a few people in that one.
Was that like an anniversary of it, or like something like
It
that?
might have been. There had to been, let's see, five. There had to been 15 or 17 people in it.
On the panel, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice Strike is saying that Zoom is limited by whether you pay for it or not. The amount of participants is based on what level. That's right. So as free, I think you can have, what is it? Maybe that's where it was 10 people. And that's where I seen the 100 might have been at the whatever, $24 a month or something. And then at the $70 a month or $100, whatever it is, you get 1,000 people. I don't know what the numbers were, but that's right. If I remember, because I had to, like I say, in order to join the room, I had to, I guess, join Zoom and then download software onto the computer. And that's where I noticed they have a pricing structure, but you don't need to buy anything to participate, but you need to purchase how many people can participate, if that makes sense. So thanks for that. Thanks, Drake. None of these things are perfect. Hangouts wasn't perfect. This is all an evolution. Think back to when we didn't have any of this stuff. So whatever, make do, adapt, overcome, figure out what we need next, and let's build something better. That was my question during the thing, was why we're doing this on Zoom and Facebook, especially when we're talking about gaming, because I can't imagine too many people are like, hey, I really want a game, so let me grab Facebook and start there, right? I just don't see that happen. But maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't have any clue what goes through gamers' heads, I guess. But I certainly like the idea of having our industry come up with something, though. I'd like to see the next level of social, I don't know what to call it, the next platform for conversation, be focused on or come from Second Amendment, so that we can help resist places like Bloomberg's money and what Bloomberg's money purchases. He doesn't purchase a bunch of people to actually give a shit. He purchases marketing firms. He purchases people that went to school to know how a mammal thinks, know how societies react to make you buy yellow shoes instead of red shoes. So he goes to people whose job is to change people's minds and to give people the idea that smoking cigarettes is an act of pleasure, or that, you know, buying a different pair of clothes every day is, you know, creative and an act of individualism, and you should ignore all the consequences of, you know, they're really good at engineering social behaviors. So he doesn't need to learn grassroots. He doesn't need to figure out how to get people to work together. He doesn't need to sugarcoat nothing. He just throws money at people who do their jobs. And if he decides that it's impossible for this company to do this and that, he doesn't care. He'll just pay this company to do this and that company to pay that. And then think of how fun that would be if you had $1 billion to make marketing companies compete for, you know, warping people's minds to your goals. That's what we're up against, like it or not. You don't get to choose when or who your adversaries are. So we're living in a time when we're up against the dude who's going to throw $5 million at Arizona. And we could bicker about whether Zoom is better than the Duck, or they're both shitty compared to guntube.org, which is the facts. But it sucks that we don't have a guntube.org that we could just, is the no-brainer, is the go-to. That's where everybody's doing their live chats anyway. So that's what the Second Amendment Foundation is going to be. Instead, we're going to get a bunch of people that go, oh, that's too gun-centric, or you're preaching to the choir. Here's the reasons why we should jump back on old shitty crap that sucks and everybody hates because it's easy, or we already did it that way, or because a bunch of other people did it that way. Anyway, that's getting off into other topics. I'm losing audience, so it's all about the numbers. Let's keep it on track. Thanks, RTT, for jumping in. Thanks to, what we got out there? Night Strike jumping in. Go to guntube.org. We got Enrique Sonora out there. Go to AZCDL. We got Pants out there. I don't know if he does anything. Patriot, well, I shouldn't say that. Pants is constantly doing stuff. I just don't know if he's got an organization that he advocates. I don't know who Patriotic Spartan is, but you're there. Ron is also there. I don't know who you are. Do I know who this person is? I don't know. And then Southpaw, we know who that is. RTT is in here. And then we got Erstwhile out there. I think that's everybody. At least everybody that Pato is showing me. So there was also a link. So you could have jumped in here and been part of this. But we'll end it here. Thanks for jumping in. If you're interested, head over to the Second Amendment Foundation and participate in, the conversations that's going to save our Second Amendment, change the world, and that kind of fun stuff. Back to pick you up later.
Thanks, man.